The eviction notice was taped to my apartment door when I got home from my shift at the coffee shop. Bright yellow paper, impossible to miss, impossible to ignore. Notice to vacate. 30 days. I stood in the hallway of my building, a converted warehouse in Brooklyn with thin walls and a broken elevator, and felt my stomach drop. I'd known this was coming. I was 3 months behind on rent, and my landlord had been patient, but patience has limits. I pulled the notice off the door and went inside, dropping my bag on the floor of the tiny studio that I apparently had 30 days to vacate. It was 2019. I was 26 years old, and I was about to be homeless while trying to launch a tech startup from my laptop. My phone rang. My sister Rachel. I almost didn't answer. I couldn't handle her judgment right now, but she'd just keep calling. "Hey, Rach." "Jen, finally. I've been trying to reach you all week." "Mom said you haven't been answering her calls either." "I've been busy." "Too busy for family?" "That's nice. Anyway, I'm calling because Mom's worried about you. She said you're still doing that app thing, the one that's never going to make money." I closed my eyes. It's a platform for freelance workers to find consistent clients, and yes, I'm still working on it. Working on it with what money? Mom said you're barely paying rent. She said you're working at a coffee shop part-time because your startup isn't profitable. Jen, when are you going to accept that this isn't working and get a real job? It is working. I have users. I have engagement metrics. I just need more time to... You don't have time. You're going to be homeless. Do you understand that? You're 26 years old and you can't even pay your rent because you're chasing some fantasy about being a tech entrepreneur. It's not a fantasy. Yes, it is. It's a fantasy. It's you refusing to grow up and be responsible. You know what I was doing at 26? I was 3 years into my career at Goldman, making 6 figures, living in a nice apartment, being an actual adult. And you're making lattes and pretending you're Steve Jobs. The words stung more because there was truth in them. I was broke. I was behind on rent. I was working a service job to survive while building something that might never work. From the outside, it probably did look like a fantasy. Thanks for the support, Rachel. Really helpful. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to help you see reality. You need to give up this app thing, get a real job. I can probably get you an interview at Goldman in operations or something, and start being a responsible adult. You can't live like this forever. I'm not planning to live like this forever. I'm planning to build something that what? Makes you a billionaire. Jen, those stories are 1 in a million. For every person who makes it in tech, there are thousands who fail, and you're going to be one of the ones who fails unless you wake up. I hung up. I couldn't listen anymore, couldn't handle her condescension, her certainty that her path was the only valid one, her inability to see that building something from nothing was work, even if it wasn't profitable yet. But sitting alone in my tiny studio with an eviction notice on my counter, I wondered if she was right, if I was delusional, if I should just give up and get a real job like everyone kept telling me to. I looked at my laptop, at the platform I'd been building for 18 months, the code I'd written myself because I couldn't afford developers, the users who were starting to rely on it even though I wasn't charging them yet. Freelance flow, I'd called it. A simple idea: connect freelancers with clients who needed consistent, ongoing work rather than one-off gigs. Stability for people in the gig economy. The platform had 3,000 users. Good engagement, positive feedback, but no revenue model yet because I'd been focused on growth first, monetization later. Classic startup strategy, except when you're bootstrapping alone. Later sometimes never comes because you run out of money first. I had 30 days. 30 days to figure out how to pay rent, or 30 days to admit Rachel was right and give up. I chose neither. Instead, I spent the next 72 hours building a revenue model. I added a subscription tier for freelancers who wanted premium features, priority placement, direct client messaging, analytics on their profiles. $20 a month, not much, but if enough people paid it, maybe enough to survive. I launched the paid tier on a Friday. By Monday, I had 200 subscribers. $4,000 a month in revenue. Not enough to live on in New York, but enough to show I was onto something. Within 2 months, I had 800 paid subscribers, $16,000 a month. I paid my back rent, gave notice to the coffee shop, and moved into a slightly less terrible apartment. Within 6 months, I had 3,000 paid subscribers and had added a second tier for clients. $60,000 a month in revenue. I hired my first employee. Within a year, I had 15,000 users, $200,000 in monthly revenue, and was fielding calls from venture capital firms interested in investing. I took a seed round, $2 million at a $10 million valuation, used it to hire a real team, build better features, scale marketing. Within another year, Freelance Flow had 100,000 users and was facilitating $50 million in freelance work annually. And Rachel never called to congratulate me, never acknowledged my success, never admitted she'd been wrong about the app being a fantasy. That is, until today. I was in my office, a real office in a real building in Manhattan, with my name on the door and a view of the Hudson River, when my assistant buzzed. "Your sister Rachel is here. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's urgent." I hadn't seen Rachel in 3 years, not since I'd sent her a check for $10,000 as a thank you for your support, with a note that said, "Turns out the fantasy worked. Jen." She'd never cashed it or responded. "Send her in." Rachel walked into my office looking diminished. She was still polished. Designer suit, expensive bag, but there was something defeated in her posture. She looked around the office with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Nice place," she said finally. "Very corporate." "Thanks. What can I do for you, Rachel? I assume this isn't a social call since you haven't returned any of my messages in 3 years." She sat down without being invited. "I need to talk to you about something." "Okay." "I lost my job at Goldman. They had layoffs last month and I was part of them. I've been looking for 2 months and nobody's hiring. The market is terrible." "I'm sorry to hear that." And I was, despite everything. "That's rough." "Yeah, well," she picked at a thread on her skirt. "I was wondering if you might have any positions available at your company. I saw you're hiring for several roles and I thought maybe—" She trailed off. I stared at her, genuinely unsure if I'd heard correctly. "You want to work for me at Freelance Flow, the app that was a fantasy?" I know what I said. I was wrong, okay? You proved me wrong. The app is successful. You built something. And I need a job and you're hiring and we're family, so I thought maybe you'd consider what exactly? Hiring the sister who told me I was delusional? Who said I needed to grow up and get a real job? Who told me I'd be one of the thousands who fail? Rachel's face flushed. "I was trying to help. I was worried about you." "No, you were being condescending. There's a difference. You weren't worried. You were convinced you were right, and I was wrong. You were certain your path was the only valid one, and mine was a waste of time. I made a mistake. I misjudged you. I'm sorry. But Jen, I really need this. I've sent out hundreds of applications. Nobody's calling back. My savings are running out. I'm about to be in the same position you were in, behind on rent, desperate for work." The irony wasn't lost on me. "You told me to get a real job when I was in that position. Should I give you the same advice?" "That's not fair." "Isn't it? You showed me zero compassion when I was struggling. Why should I show you any now?" Rachel's eyes filled with tears. "Because I'm your sister. Because I was wrong and I'm admitting it. Because I'm asking for help and you're in a position to give it. Isn't that what family does? Is it? Because when I needed family support while building this company, I got lectures about being irresponsible. When I was behind on rent because I was investing everything in freelance flow, I got told I needed to grow up. When I asked you to just believe in me, to just trust that I knew what I was doing, you compared yourself to me and made it clear I didn't measure up. I stood up, walked to the window. The view really was spectacular. Do you know what kept me going when I had that eviction notice? When I was working at a coffee shop and coding until 3 a.m. every night? It wasn't family support, because I didn't have that. It was spite. It was the desire to prove you wrong, to prove everyone wrong who said I was wasting my time. I turned back to face her. So thank you, I guess. Thank you for being so certain I'd fail that it motivated me to succeed just to prove you wrong. Jen, please. I know I screwed up. I know I was a terrible sister, but I'm here now, apologizing, asking for help. Doesn't that count for something? I looked at my sister, broke, desperate, humbled by circumstances the way I'd been humbled 3 years ago. And I felt the same conflict I imagined she'd felt back then. The pull of family versus the satisfaction of letting someone learn a hard lesson. What position are you interested in? I asked finally. Hope flared in her eyes. VP of Finance. I have 15 years of experience at Goldman in financial operations. I know I could add value to... No. No? Rachel, you don't get to walk in here after years of telling me this company was a fantasy and demand a VP position. That's not how this works. Then what position would you consider me for? I pulled up our job openings on my computer. We're hiring for a customer success associate, entry-level position. You'd be handling support tickets, talking to users, helping freelancers optimize their profiles. It's not glamorous. It's basically customer service. Salary is $45,000 plus equity. Rachel looked horrified. Customer service? Jen, I have an MBA from Wharton. I made $350,000 a year at Goldman. You can't seriously expect me to do customer service. I don't expect you to do anything. You asked if I had positions available. That's the position I'm willing to offer you. If you want it, it's yours. If you don't, there's the door. But I'm qualified for so much more. Are you? You're qualified for finance at a traditional investment bank, but this is a tech startup. The culture is different, the work is different, and honestly, your resume means nothing to me if you don't understand the product or the users. So if you want to work here, you start at entry level like everyone else. You learn the business from the ground up. You prove you can be humble and do the work. And maybe eventually you move up to something that better matches your experience. This is because I didn't support you, isn't it? This is revenge. No, this is reality. This is me running a business and making decisions based on what's best for that business. And what's best for my business is not putting someone with no tech experience and a demonstrated history of condescension to people she thinks are beneath her into a leadership role. But I'm willing to give you an entry-level position because you're my sister and you need work. Take it or leave it. Rachel sat there for a long moment, clearly wrestling with her pride. Finally, she said, "If I take this position, is there really room to move up, or are you just going to keep me in customer service as punishment? If you do good work, if you learn the business, if you prove you can be a team player and not a condescending ass, then yes, there's room to move up. I promote based on performance, not on who you're related to or where you went to school. Several of my current directors started in entry-level positions. And the salary, $45,000, is less than my rent. Then you'll need to move to a cheaper apartment, like I did. Remember when you told me I should be responsible and live within my means? Same advice applies to you now." Another long silence. Then, "Okay." "Okay, what?" "Okay, I'll take the position. Customer Success Associate. $45,000 plus equity. When do I start?" Monday, 9 a.m. Dress is casual. Jeans and t-shirts are fine. Actually encouraged. You'll be training with Amanda, who's been with the company for 18 months and is excellent. She's 23 and didn't go to college, so if you have any problems taking direction from her, this isn't going to work. Rachel flinched but nodded. I can take direction from her. I need this job, Jen. I'll do whatever it takes. We'll see. One more thing, if you take this job, you work like everyone else. No special treatment because you're my sister. No complaining about tasks being beneath you. No acting like you're better than the rest of the team because you have a Wharton MBA. You're entry level, and you'll be treated as entry level. Can you handle that? Yes. Good. I'll have HR send over the paperwork. Welcome to Freelance Flow, Rachel. Try not to think of it as a fantasy. After she left, my COO Sarah came into my office. Was that your sister? The one who told you to get a real job? That's her. And you hired her? At entry level, doing customer service, making a fraction of what she used to make. Am I terrible? Sarah laughed. You're giving her a job when she needs one. You could have said no. The fact that the job is humbling isn't your fault. It's reality. She's starting over in a new industry. Of course she starts at entry level. I know. But part of me took satisfaction in offering her customer service when she wanted VP of Finance. Part of me wanted her to feel small the way she made me feel small. That's human. She was awful to you. You're allowed to enjoy a little karmic justice. Rachel started Monday. I watched her on the security cameras, arriving at 8:45 in jeans and a blouse that was trying too hard to be casual, looking nervous as Amanda showed her around, sitting at a desk in the open office area with the rest of the customer success team. For the first week, I heard reports that she was quiet, diligent, taking direction without complaint. She answered support tickets, talked to users, learned the platform. She was competent, if not exceptional. The second week, Amanda came to me. Your sister is actually pretty good at customer success. She's patient with users, good at problem solving, and she's started making suggestions for how we could improve our onboarding process. They're good suggestions. That's great. But she's also clearly struggling with not being in charge. I can see her biting her tongue when she disagrees with decisions. Can I give her some advice? Or is that weird since she's your sister? Give her advice. Treat her like any other employee. Apparently Amanda did, because Rachel knocked on my office door that evening after everyone else had left. Can we talk? Sure. She sat down, looking tired. Amanda told me I need to stop acting like I know better than everyone. She said, I'm not subtle about disagreeing with decisions, and it's making the team uncomfortable. Is she right? Yeah, she's right. I keep thinking about how I would have done things at Goldman and forgetting that this isn't Goldman. That tech startups work differently, that my experience doesn't necessarily apply here. That's good self-awareness. It's hard, Jen. It's really hard to go from making $350,000 and being respected as a senior person to making $45,000 and being the most junior person on a team. It's hard to take direction from people younger than me, with less education. It's hard to do work that feels beneath what I'm capable of. I know. I did customer service when I was building Freelance Flow. Answered every support email myself for the first year. It was humbling, but it also taught me more about my users than any amount of analytics could have. Sometimes the humbling work is the most important work. Is that why you put me in this role? To humble me? Partly, I admitted, but also because it's where you can add the most value right now. You don't know tech, you don't know startups, you don't understand our culture or our users. But you're smart and you can learn. Customer success is where you learn all of that. It's not punishment, it's training. Rachel nodded slowly. I'm sorry for what I said 3 years ago, for not believing in you, for being so certain you'd fail that I couldn't be supportive. I was wrong about everything. I know. How long did it take you to forgive me? I don't know if I have yet, I said honestly. You hurt me pretty badly. You made me doubt myself during a time when I needed support, not judgment. So yeah, I'm still working on forgiveness, but I gave you a job anyway because you're my sister and you needed help, and I'm trying to be better than my pettiness. You're doing better than I deserve. Maybe, but I remember what it felt like to be broke and desperate. I remember the eviction notice and the fear and the wondering if everyone was right that I was wasting my time. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, even someone who wished it on me. 6 months later, Rachel was promoted to Customer Success Manager. She'd proven herself competent, humble, willing to learn. She'd stopped acting like her MBA made her special and started doing the work. A year after that, she moved to a new role, Director of User Experience, focusing on making the platform more intuitive for freelancers. She was good at it, really good. Her financial background helped her understand the economics of freelancing, and her customer success experience meant she knew what users actually needed. We were at a company all-hands meeting when I announced her promotion to VP of User Experience, a role we'd created specifically for her after she'd proven over 2 years that she understood our business, our culture, and our users. After the meeting, she came to my office. Thank you for giving me a chance when I didn't deserve it. For making me work my way up instead of just handing me a VP title. For teaching me what I needed to learn. You earned it. Every promotion, every raise, every bit of responsibility. I know. That's the weird part. I know I earned it, and it feels better than any promotion I got at Goldman. Those were just time-based, seniority-based. These were based on actually being good at the work. She paused, looking out at the office full of people working on the platform we'd built together. You were right, you know. When you said I needed to learn the business from the ground up, I would have been terrible as VP of Finance when I first came here. I didn't understand tech, didn't understand startups, didn't understand our users. I would have made horrible decisions based on Goldman logic that doesn't apply here. I know. That's why I didn't hire you for that role. I thought you were being petty, punishing me for not supporting you. I was being petty, I admitted. But I was also being honest. You weren't qualified for a senior role. You're qualified now because you put in the work. Both things can be true. Rachel smiled. Thanks for making me put in the work, even when I resented it. Thank you for actually doing it. A lot of people in your position would have quit when they realized they'd have to start over. I almost did. That first month I went home every night and cried because I felt so diminished, so small, so unimportant compared to what I'd been at Goldman. But then I realized that feeling small was exactly what you'd felt when I was telling you to give up your fantasy and get a real job. And I thought, if you could push through that and build something incredible, maybe I could push through this and become part of something incredible. You did. You're one of my best executives now. Users love what you've built. The team respects you. You've earned every bit of your success here. Unlike at Goldman, where I just showed up and got promoted because I'd been there long enough. I didn't say that, but it's true. I was never exceptional at Goldman. I was just good enough and there long enough. Here I had to actually be exceptional, had to prove myself, had to earn respect instead of assuming people should respect me because of my pedigree. It was humbling, but it made me better. 3 years after Rachel started at Freelance Flow, we went public. The IPO valued the company at $800 million. My equity was worth $200 million. Rachel's equity, accumulated through years of options and grants, was worth $2 million. At the company celebration, she pulled me aside. I need to say something. Okay, you gave me more than a job. You gave me a chance to rebuild my identity around something real, around actual work and actual value instead of just pedigree and prestige. You could have turned me away when I needed help, and you had every reason to. But you didn't, and I'm grateful every day that you're more generous than I deserve. You would have done the same for me. No, I wouldn't have. That's the truth. If our positions had been reversed, if you'd come to Goldman asking for help, I would have turned you away. I would have said you needed to figure it out yourself, that I couldn't help someone who'd made such bad choices. I would have been exactly as cold to you as I was when you were building this company. She wiped tears from her eyes. So thank you for being better than me, for giving me what I didn't give you, for letting me be part of something you built without my support. You didn't owe me that, but you did it anyway. You're my sister, I said simply. That means something, even when you're a terrible sister, even when you're wrong about everything, even when you make me want to prove you wrong just out of spite. You're still my sister. I hope I'm a better sister now. You are. Significantly better. We stood together looking out at the party, at the team we'd built, the company we'd grown, the success we'd achieved together despite our complicated history. Rachel had said I couldn't even pay rent. She'd been right. I couldn't, 3 years ago. I was broke and desperate and about to be evicted while chasing what she called a fantasy. Then she'd asked me for a job when her own career fell apart. And I'd given her one, even though she'd given me nothing but condescension when our positions were reversed. I could have turned her away, could have told her to figure it out herself, to get a real job, to grow up and be responsible. Could have let her feel what I'd felt when she judged my choices. Instead, I'd given her an entry-level position doing customer service, made her work her way up, made her prove herself. Made her learn humility and the value of doing work that's beneath your resume but essential to the business. And in doing so, I'd gained an excellent executive, rebuilt a relationship with my sister, and proven that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's grace. It's giving people what they don't deserve because you remember what it felt like to need grace yourself. Rachel had been wrong about my fantasy. It turned out to be reality. Profitable, successful, life-changing reality. But more importantly, we'd both been wrong about what mattered. It wasn't about who made more money or whose career was more prestigious or who was right about business strategy. It was about showing up for family even when they don't show up for you. About giving chances to people who don't deserve them, about being better than your worst impulses because someone has to break the cycle of judgment and condescension. My sister had said I couldn't even pay rent. Now I could pay everyone's rent. But the real success wasn't the money. It was that when she'd needed help, I'd given it. Not easily, not without making her work for it, but genuinely. Because family helps family. Even when family has been terrible, especially then, that's not revenge. That's growth. And it turns out growth is more satisfying than revenge anyway.